immigration. Every politician's favorite 10-letter word. Politicians right now are using immigration as a piece to get votes. Some are for immigration, some are against immigration. But the trick is to understand that this has been played on society since day one. Let me explain. As far back as I could see, when the Irish were first coming to Canada, the English and the French were annoyed. They thought they were taking away their jobs. They thought that they would interrupt their religious holidays. They would ruin their economy. And that's the Irish. This is really, in my humble opinion, not that different from a traditional, classical, Anglophone Canadian, if that's appropriate. And then the next wave of immigrants were the Chinese. The Chinese, huge migration, populace coming to Canada. And again, the exact same stereotypes were set, believe it or not. They're going to take away our jobs, they don't speak the language, come with disease, just about anything to harness the fear and the anxiety of the populace, to blame the immigrants on their modern day problems, never to look at the politician. And the reason I bring this up is because Canada in the 70s declared itself as a multicultural country, meaning put in its constitution that it's going to be multicultural. In 1971, Canada officially adopted a policy.
For me, this beautiful, rich, and energetic country of ours can become a model of the just society in which every citizen...
And so has been the trend ever since then. After that, whatever war-torn country had a problem, there was always refuge in Canada. That is the history of immigration in Canada. That is what it's been, that's what it's always been, and it continues to be. However, when did multiculturalism become racist? That is the real question that I need you to really focus in on. Now, in order to come to Canada, there was a couple of ways you could always do it. First of all, simply by applying. Canada has this lottery system that you apply, you might get lucky, and you automatically get it. So that's number one, the lottery system. The other one's a family sponsorship program. So basically, I'm here in Canada, and my parents, grandparents, relatives are overseas. I have the ability to sponsor them to bring them here. Refugee humanitarian program, that's very obvious. These are for people that are escaping war-torn countries, and they can apply to come to Canada because they're facing persecution, imprisonment, or death. Provincial nominee program is when the province actually needs certain types of people, so they can go and just extract people by request to come into the Canada. So if there's a shortage of labor, shortage in the workforce from certain provinces, they're able to then say, okay, we need someone from outside because this skill is unavailable here in, let's say, Ontario. But where it gets so interesting is in this whole multiculturalism. I'm kind of thinking that Canada prides itself on being this diaspora of multiculturalism, that even when the Prime Minister announced his cabinet, he made a big fuss about gender equality. But when did Canada start immigrating based on racism? When did that become its trend? For so much time, you could always notice that Canada was always trying to be a peacekeeping nation, meaning it would go to help in the world's problems, never to send battles, never to fight, never to initiate war, but to quote-unquote peacekeep. But what you see happening in the Ukraine, which one can argue is a great thing, that they are allowing anyone, to come to Canada. If you're from the Ukraine and you fear for your life, and you fear for death from the Russian troops, you can come to Canada in an unlimited fashion, meaning there is no numerical restriction. If you're from the Ukraine, you can find a place in Canada. Now, if you're a humanitarian, you're like, oh, great, that's good. These people are facing persecution, they're in danger, they might die. Sure, let's bring them to Canada. If you think that way, again, there's a big disclaimer here that if you believe that is how it should be run, that is the offer for any Ukrainian. Now, 1.189 million people have applied for immigration to Canada. 1.2 million. Of those 1.2 million, I'm not joking, since 2022, 936,000 people have been accepted in this program. Huge number, massive number. How many people have already been admitted into Canada? 210,000. So the influx of Ukrainian refugees has begun. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that per se. That isn't my message today. But my question is, we know of the chaos happening in the Middle East. We know that there are people being displaced. We know people don't have school. We know people don't have medicine. We know people don't have water. We know they have nothing. That entire streets, for God's sake, the entire city has been bombed at this point in time. And you know how many people are allowed in from that part of the world? 1,000. Not 100,000, not 1 million, 1,000. So my question to anybody watching, regardless of your positioning on immigration and refugees, whether you want them, you don't want them, we got too many, we don't have enough, that's all for another video. The question today is, if we're taking an unlimited amount, then why are we only taking in 1,000 from another part of the world? Is there racism in our immigration policy? Is there racism just as being part of Canada? Are Canadians inherently just racist? It's got to be more to that. It can't be just that simple that we just don't like these type of people. Or maybe it is. Maybe this entire show of multiculturalism, this entire show of gender equality, maybe this really is a show, because when it actually counts, when it really matters, it appears that this peacekeeping nation is letting people die on the ground.